In the heart of Colorado, wrapped in quiet pine forests and silver blue clouds, there lived a man named Evan Brooks. To everyone who knew him, he was the kind of man who used to shine, once a college athlete, once a straight-A student, once a guy with dreams big enough to light up a whole room. But that was before life hit him hard. One winter morning, Evan found himself standing in front of a mirror he barely recognized. There were dark circles under his eyes, a beard he hadn't trimmed in months, and a heaviness in his chest that never seemed to leave. Just a year ago, he had lost his job. 2 months later, his long-term girlfriend left, telling him she couldn't handle the uncertainty anymore. His father passed away soon after, leaving him with grief that felt too big to swallow. Life had dropped him to his knees, and slowly, without noticing, Evan began letting go of the things that once made him him. He stopped going to the gym, stopped meeting friends, stopped caring about anything. The letter one cold February morning, Evan received a small, plain envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a simple handwritten note from his father, dated months before he died. It said, "Son, if you're reading this, I want you to go back to the place where you learned to be brave. The mountain never leaves you. You just forgot the way up." Inside the envelope was a folded photo of 15-year-old Evan standing at the top of Mount Alder Peak, smiling wide, holding a little wooden flag he had carved himself after completing his first ever climb. His father had taken him there for years, every birthday, every summer. That mountain was where Evan had learned patience, discipline, courage, and the belief that he could do difficult things. So that same night, with the letter pressed against his chest, Evan made a decision. A small decision, a simple one, but one that would change everything. He would climb Alder Peak again, not to celebrate, not to prove anything, but to remember who he used to be. The climb begins. The next morning, Evan filled an old backpack with a bottle of water, energy bars, and a jacket. No fancy gear, no preparation, just a man and a mountain he hoped could wake something inside him. As he stepped onto the trail, the icy air rushed into his lungs. The trees whispered with the wind. The earth beneath him crackled with frost. With every step, memories came flooding back, his dad's voice telling him, "One step, one breath, one more. That's how you climb anything in life." But the trail was steeper than he remembered. His legs burned, his breath shortened, his mind screamed for him to turn around. Every 5 minutes, he stopped, bent over, exhausted. His chest hurt, his head spun, and the weight of the past year sat heavy on his back. At one point, he sat on a fallen log, staring at the ground, whispering, maybe this was a stupid idea. But then he saw it, scratched into the wood of the log, weathered by time but still readable. "You came this far. Don't stop now." The words weren't his. They weren't his father's. They were just a message someone had left for themselves or for strangers who might need it. But for Evan, it was enough. He stood again and walked, the stranger on the trail. Halfway up the mountain, Evan came across an elderly man, maybe in his 70s, resting by a rock, catching his breath. His hiking poles leaned beside him, and a gentle smile warmed his face as Evan approached. "You climbing alone?" the old man asked. "Yeah," Evan replied, trying to remember how to be strong again. The old man chuckled softly, brushing snow off his jacket. "My boy, strength isn't something you remember, it's something you rebuild." Evan sat beside him, and for a few minutes they talked. The man introduced himself as Mr. Dalton, a retired firefighter. He shared something Evan didn't expect. "Do you know how many times I'd been afraid?" the old man asked. "Hundreds, thousands. But courage, true courage, is doing the next step even when fear walks beside you." The words hit Evan's heart like a spark. Before they parted ways, the old man placed a hand on Evan's shoulder. "Remember this, the mountain doesn't care how fast you climb. It only cares that you don't quit." Then he walked on, slowly but steadily. Evan stared after him, realizing something he had forgotten for a long time. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to keep moving. Where the trail gets rough. As Evan reached the higher part of the mountain, the path became narrow, slippery, covered in patches of ice. The wind howled louder. His fingers froze. The sky darkened. Every step felt like a battle. At one point, his foot slipped and he fell to his knees. Pain shot up his leg. His palms scraped the ice. And suddenly, the memories, the losses, the failures, everything he had pushed down, came crashing up like a storm. He buried his face in his hands and whispered, "Why does life keep knocking me down?" And then, he heard it. Not from a person, not from the wind, but from somewhere inside, somewhere deep he thought was gone. "Because you're someone who can get back up." He opened his eyes, took one breath, then another. He grabbed a branch, pushed himself to his feet, and continued the climb. The summit. By the time he reached the last stretch, his legs felt like concrete. His heartbeat thumped loudly. The cold bit into him sharply. But the moment he saw the peak, just a few hundred feet away, something inside him shattered and rebuilt at the same time. He moved faster, not because he had strength left, but because he finally remembered who he was. With one final push, he reached the top. And there it was, the same silent, endless view he had seen as a teenager, mountains rolling into the horizon, clouds floating below him, sunlight breaking through like hope made visible. Evan dropped to his knees, tears filling his eyes. Not tears of pain, not grief, but release. He pulled out his father's letter, read it again, and whispered into the wind, "Dad, I'm climbing again. I'm trying." For the first time in over a year, Evan felt alive. Not healed, not perfect, but alive. The walk back down, climbing the mountain, had been hard, but walking back down was different. Every step down felt like leaving behind a piece of the pain he had carried. The job loss, the heartbreak, the grief, the self-doubt. He wasn't magically fixed. Life wasn't suddenly perfect, but something inside him had shifted. He remembered he was someone who could choose to rise again, and that was enough to start building a new life. The change. Over the next few weeks, everything slowly started to transform. Evan cleaned his apartment, started working out again, reconnected with old friends, applied for jobs he thought were out of reach, read books that fed his soul. Some days were good, some days were heavy, but he kept going one step at a time. The mountain had reminded him of the most important truth. Strength is not a feeling. Strength is a choice, and you can choose it again every single day. 1 year later, 1 year after the climb, Evan stood in front of a room filled with young trainees at the company that had hired him as a team leader. He told them about perseverance, growth, and courage, but not from a textbook. From a mountain, from a journey, from a moment when life felt like it was over. But he decided to stand up anyway. He ended his speech with the same words his father once told him. In life, you don't climb because the mountain is easy. You climb because you are capable. The room fell silent, and for the first time in a long time, Evan smiled, knowing he had become himself again. Moral of the story: life will knock you down. It will test you, break you, confuse you, and try to make you forget who you are. But the moment you decide to stand back up, even if your legs shake, even if your heart is heavy, even if fear walks beside you, that is the moment you become unstoppable. Remember, the climb is hard, the summit is worth it, and you are stronger than everything trying to hold you down.